Everyone, it's time for us to go and take a look at the iPhone 13 and compare it against the iPhone 13 Pro Max in 2023 and see which one you should go and buy. Now, my 13 Pro Max keeps restarting, so it's a very annoying process. Hopefully, you won't have to experience it over the camera, but I'll have to experience it IRL. Now, you can see, in my opinion, both of these are very different. The 13 Pro Max is the one I'd probably recommend more people to buy, but the 13 is probably more comfortable to a lot more people. So if you want to pick up either one of these phones, links will be down in the description. You can get them from there, and you can help support the channel at the same time. Now, starting off with the outside, the iPhone 13 on the front had a 6.1-inch Super Retina Extra OLED display, and it was a pretty good panel. Both these phones came out in 2021, and I definitely do think that this panel was pretty decent. Definitely not perfect, but I think Apple did a good job. You have the notch up top, a little bit of bezel, fairly high resolution. The viewing angles are still very good. The side of the phone still feel very premium as well. The thing with this panel though is that it is a 60 Hz display. Now the iPhone 13 Pro Max has a 120 Hz display. I think we all know this by now. So that was a really cool thing going on for something like the iPhone 13 Pro Max and the 13 Pro over the iPhone 13 during that moment. Now with my boot looping iPhone 13 Pro Max, we have a massive 6.7-inch Super Retina XDR OLED display. This is a massive phone and it's a massive panel. You're clearly getting a very, very big display. It's a 120 Hz panel though, which is beautiful, something I love seeing on this type of phone. Having that type of capability is beautiful, and I love seeing that on this type of device. The panel gets very bright. You have the notch up top, slim bezel around it for the most part, but this is definitely a very, very good display and easily one of my most favorite things about this type of phone for sure. Now for the rest of the bodies, you can kind of see that both these phones are a little tiny bit different. So you can see that in terms of thinness, they're actually not that far off. The iPhone 13 Pro Max is significantly bigger though, as you guys can probably tell. But the other thing is you're getting this reflective material on the iPhone 13 Pro Max. So that's kind of a nice thing. Like if you wanted to go and have a little bit of a better built phone, you're basically getting that on the iPhone 13 Pro Max over the iPhone 13. Now on the back of both these phones, I have a very, very cracked back on my 13 Pro Max. That's probably why that phone is boot looping. And you can see that we have a triple camera setup on the 13 Pro Max. On the iPhone 13, we have a dual camera setup. So both these phones do fairly well in that standpoint. But I will say with something like the 13 Pro Max, it is very, very interesting how this type of phone with its frosted glass back, like when I think about these two phones, they feel like they're in different leagues. Even though this one's completely cracked, this newer iPhone 13 Pro Max, with the new back and everything, it is honestly surprising how good of a phone the iPhone 13 Pro Max feels like over the standard iPhone 13. So in terms of that and in terms of the outside, that's kind of how I see both of these phones if I'm being honest. Now the other thing, with a phone like the iPhone 13, I still think this type of phone is still perfectly fine for the most part. I think a lot of people can still have a very, very good time with this type of device. And when it comes down to like software and longevity, this type of device is still going to be supported for a long period of time. Both of these phones are going to be getting the same software updates. So it's not like one phone is going to completely outlast the other one. That's not going to be the case. They're both going to be supported for pretty much the same amount of time. So let's go and do a speed comparison now. The iPhone 13 has that Apple A15 Bionic chip inside of it with 4 GB of RAM. With the 13 Pro Max has that Apple A15 Bionic chip inside of it with 6 gigs of RAM. So let's go and see which one's the faster one between both. Okay, there we go. All the apps are clear on the background except for the 13 Pro Max. So let's go and hop these out and let's get into it. Phone calls 3, 2, 1. Now my 13 Pro Max could restart at any moment, so I'm going to go super quickly to get as many apps as I can, at least load it up. And we're just going to keep going until that phone boot loops. The 13 Pro Max did way better there. Mail 3, 2, 1. Okay, clock 3, 2, 1. App Store 3, 2, 1. Okay, different pop-up here, which is weird. Actually scrolling through, you can kind of tell that there's quite a bit of a difference here. Usually with 120 Hz panels, I just kind of get used to it. But definitely between 60 Hz and 120 Hz, massive difference. Camera, 3, 2, 1. Okay, photos, 3, 2, 1. 13 Pro Max, I think was the faster one there too, although we get into weird pop-ups like that. Let's go ahead and try some of these other applications I have between both. So Tempo Run 2, 3, 2, 1. Now, like I said, this phone could boot loop at any moment. So we're just going to keep it going. Hopefully it doesn't do it anytime soon. So it does look like to me the 13 Pro Max did kind of load into that one a little bit faster. The iPhone 13 slightly behind. Again, not a big, massive deal, but just one of those things to keep in mind. So that one kind of covered that one up. Let's go and try a different one. Fruit Ninja, which I don't have stack. 3, 2, 1. Totally, completely messed that one up. So we'll just load this one up in the back. And surprisingly, the 13 Pro Max actually loaded that one up faster, even though I clicked it faster on the iPhone 13. Thank you, 321. And that was actually really insane. I was not expecting that. I was expecting the 13 Pro Max to be way slower there then, but I guess that didn't even happen. Hopping out of this one, Snake vs. Blocks, 321. Okay, kind of the same thing, not really a big difference there. Glitches between both. Let's go hop out of this one. Netflix 321. 13 Pro Max faster. Quizlet 3. I don't have it. Let's go and try. So what other apps do I have here? Facebook 3, 2, 1. But I think I am logged into an account here. I am, so it's not really going to matter too much. If we have another one like Snapchat 3, 2, 1. So the 13 Pro Max I think was slightly faster there as well. So I think ultimately when it kind of comes down to both of these these two devices, very surprising. I think the 13 Pro Max did really, really well. And you can see it just now restarted. So I definitely do think the 13 Pro Max is the faster iPhone for sure. But the 13 still did very, very decently well in my opinion. So that kind of covers it up there. Now in the camera department, like I mentioned, we are getting slightly different setups. So with the iPhone 13, you're getting a wide and ultra-wide camera. With the 13 Pro Max, you're getting a wide, ultra-wide, and telephoto lens. Both phones can do 4K at 60 on the front and the back, which is beautiful. And they kind of do have the same type of features built in overall. Like there's not really like crazy amounts of differences. So with the iPhone 13, you're getting a solid lens. This thing is, very decent. You're getting 5x zoom, which isn't really that much, but you're getting 0.5x zoom on the outside, which is, necessary. It's still really decent for the most part. So you have the capability of zooming in, zooming out as we normally have. You have portrait mode, panorama mode, video mode, cinematic mode, slow mode, time lapse as well. So a fairly solid lens for the most part, and I do think this type of camera is still probably plenty and good enough for a lot of people out there. But I will say, for something like the iPhone 13 Pro Max, this is definitely the better camera. You're going to be getting the better sensor for sure, which is something that just happens when you're getting these latest generation of devices. That's just kind of how these types of phones end up, kind of being like. So with this type of device, you're getting 15x zoom. So that's a lot of zoom right there. You're getting 0.5x zoom on the outside. So that's something that's kind of important to remember too. You're getting photo mode, video mode, cinematic mode. You're still maintaining portrait mode. Like you still have a lot of cool features here. But I would probably say that the 13 Pro Max camera is definitely better than the 13's. But I still think the 13's camera is still probably good enough for a lot of people out there too. So to kind of sum up this whole entire video, what I'll tell you is I definitely do think in this day and age in 2023, considering that the iPhone 13 Pro Max has gone down in value so much, this would probably be the phone I would recommend a majority of people to buy if you're comfortable with the size. The 13 Pro would make a lot more sense for me to recommend. The 13 Pro Max, if you like the size, if you like the bigger battery, this is definitely a really, really good phone, and it's gone down in value quite a bit, so you can buy this one. Or you could just buy a 13 Pro that I have right here. This is the phone I use on an everyday basis. Very solid phone. I love this phone a lot. And this is the phone I'd probably recommend more people to buy. But the 13, I think, is still very good. Like, this is still a very good phone. I think a lot of people still use this phone on an everyday basis. And Apple's still selling this brand new, so you should probably go buy this if you want to. So this is the one that would probably make a majority of sense for me to recommend to people. I think the 13 Pro Max is a very good phone too. I mean, this is better than this one, but this one is probably more comfortable for a lot more people. So that kind of covers it up there. If you have any other thoughts or questions, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.